So that relationships was a realization yet, that relationships need to break down and break through in order to mature, in order to grow, like a human being individually breaks down their stage of development when they can no longer resolve the problems at the level that they're creating it, and they break through into the next stage of value systems, of needs, of thinking, of cognizing and seeing the world. Relationships go through the same thing. I mean, I suppose it's breakup, but breakup wouldn't make sense to people, you know? It's to break up and through.
The way it's the suffering and not knowing that, do you reckon?
Well, it's the suffering and not knowing. That is that when the relationship breaks down, you are breaking up. You know, for most people, the breakdown means this isn't fucking working, including my relationship with my wife. This relationship isn't fucking working, and you know, but the breakdown has been essential for us to break through so much of the stuff. You know, I recently heard some schwami say, and this is another topic, but some schwami somewhere that I didn't agree with, that never compromise. And I don't for a moment buy that. Never compromise, stay true to what's true. And so there's some truth in that. But, you know, that breaking down and breaking through is breaking through. The compromise is based on the lower level needs. Yeah, I can see that. But, you know, two human beings have got to be able to work through stuff together. They've got to be able to break it down in order to break through it. They've got to be able to seize through the rubbish that both of them are bringing to the relationship. That's what needs to break down.
Well, even prior to that, I think it's like, what is compromise? What is the person, you know, saying when they say never compromise? But without actually knowing what that is from their perspective, there's not much we can do around the statement.
Yeah, agreed.
So, we're really in a cognitive intention here around static and process and relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see relating as static, as a product, as something that, you know, exists as a particular quality, a particular set understanding. That's suffering. Hey, well, if you see your relationship with your wife as something that you have that set, and because you're married and because you're in proximity, you have this relationship and you see it statically, you know, why for life and all of that. There's the suffering, right? And as the process shifts constantly, the person's attachment to it being as it was.
Right.
Even day to day, it is going to cause issues and relational difficulties. And so the relationship breaks down faster, the more you try to keep it together.
Right. Yeah. The more you try and link the past through the present into the future.
Okay. Yeah. We can say relating as a product inside of a process, and people are mixing them up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And well, the way they mix them up, the way they do suffering is by, as you say, referencing the past about the present and projecting it into the future. And that's the static view, right? Is to take the past into the present, project it into the future, and you got this unchanging view of how our product should be, a relationship should be. And, you know, that's not honouring the relating and the growth and the development of two human beings coming together in unity.
And yet, static and process is still dualistic, right? So we're still in a stage of suffering, even seeing the relationship as a process.
Right.
And still, we know it's still dualistic versus it being, you know, a static product. So neither of those is really the solution, right? Neither of those is really true.
One's more grown up than the other, but agreed that they're still dualistic, they're still limited in their views.
Sure. Unless we flip them over and see that the process of ending the relationship is because it's treated so statically.
Say more.
Or as we bring a process to the staticness of the relationship bends to a process. The relationship doesn't end through a static. The relationship ends statically.
I'm still not with you.
So we got a circle. We've got a hole. Where the process of ending the static relationship is recognizing the process.
Right.
It also ends the relationship as a static.
Right, yeah. I see, yeah.
So then just slightly above that, we're at choice.
Always.
So, relationship as choice. And that's gonna be a early second tier view, out of suffering, a teal view that sees relating as a choice, as opposed to a process, or as a set thing.
Yeah, beyond needs, and so that to Maslow, and how the needs hold us back from, unfolding with what is through choice, and so where the needs get in the way and stop us. Where I need my needs met, I need sexual gratification, I need affection, I need you to care about me in a certain way, and give me what mummy didn't give me, and blah, blah, blah.
Right. So let's just have an explore at what is choice.
Okay.
Relationship as an integration point above, set in a static relationship or even seeing relationship as a process. What's a choice-based relationship?
Well, let's have a look at needs first because, many people don't even recognize that they're in a need-based relationship to know that they have a choice.
Okay.
So I think, most people, certainly that I coach, come into coaching, don't realize they are in a need-based relationship, whether it's with their best mate, whether it's with their boss, whether it's with their partner, whether it's, with their parents. They're in a need-based relationship where actually all they're actually doing is trying to satiate their needs, trying to, even trying to help another person, for most people, is about getting recognized and therefore gratifying and satisfying a need.
Right.
And so those core needs are what most relationships are built upon.
And what percentage would you guess is need-based relationships in society currently?
95, 97%?
Right.
Like really, really, really very few people are in choice-based relationships.
So that percentage would?
Not because they don't want to be, because they can't see it. They cannot beyond needs to beyond their own needs. They've been socialized and they're asleep to the enculturation. They're not culturally aware, for example, which is starting to occur at the late stage green. I'm starting to become culture aware that the culture expects me to have a relationship that meets my needs.
Yeah.
Though they're not even aware of it, like, for most people that I would work with, it's like, that's so obvious, but I've never seen it. I've never thought about it. I've never had the intention to look at my relationships like that. And yeah, they are needs-based or right down to, well, of course that's what a relationship's for. The way down, what else would you be in a relationship?
A good, healthy relationship seems to look like, me satisfying their needs, them satisfying my needs, and making effort and being considerate and caring and fulfilling each other's needs is a good quality, healthy relationship, right, from that level. The difficulty is it's just not sustainable.
Well, the new needs come up. They're constantly arising. They're constantly, whatever's not being satiated in that moment. And so you've got esteem needs, you've got recognition and belonging needs, you've got survival needs, you've got power, and a drive needs achievement. There's so many needs in there that if those needs aren't known, and there's the understanding that your job is to satiate my needs, and my job is to, if you satiate my needs, satiate your needs. And that's what gets us along. I mean, look how many couples are in their 70s who have just been married for 30, 40, 50 years, who are just like fucking strangers in bed together. Like, quite literally. Like, you're there, and to an extent you satisfy my security needs, you satisfy my financial needs, you satisfy these needs, and then that's enough.
And to what's the shift, you reckon? What that's explored the transition from, what is the cause and what's the happening or shifting from a need-space relationship into what? I don't even know if it goes straight into choice-based from there. There might be.
There's a realization. So in reading with Maslow recently, going back and reading his life questions, one of the things that I really stood out for me is when a human being recognized and realizes that no one can satiate their needs. When they really get at a cellular level, there's a shift. That major shift in cognition, and I think that's between green and teal, there's a major shift of holy shit. Like, I haven't even yet realized I can't satiate those lower levels. They're unsatiable, right? The reason that they become drives is because they're so packed full of meaning from early stages, early maturity, that they're insatiable. And so not only can you not, but a lot of that, it's not insatiable. It's like, It's because I'm trying to satiate meaning, not the actual need. The actual need's being satiated in a long time ago, but the meaning hasn't.
So the delight in that is developmental, right? The difficulty in that is when one of the partners has that developmental shift.
That's difficult.
It is difficult, right? I mean, we've probably both been in relationship with partners that's been particularly difficult with you, typically with the same one.
It sure it is. It is.
It is difficult, right?
It really is. And yet, that breaking down has been a major breakthrough.
Yeah. At the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah. But the dynamic that our students face, for example, as they become, much more awake, much more aware that developmental work that they're doing in a relationship they already have with somebody that's not doing that work. That's a really big dynamic to explore, for them to be exploring.
If they will explore it and they will look into, let's call that the relational void, then, there's a fire in there that will purify both parties. There's a fire in there if you'll only walk in through the fire, and the purification occurs in the difference. It's the pulling and the pushing creates the tension that creates the awakening in my genuine experience in me. First and foremost, I definitely in my wife. In that is the fuel for all of that development, and growth is actually right there. But, it's the desire to turn away rather than turn in of the parties that will often break down and break apart relationships, rather than breaking down and breaking through that as both parties turn in. Then the relating in and of itself becomes a genuine purification of humanity, of both.
Let's just stay in the difficulty a minute because it's like the dynamic difficulty, because the other half's going, this isn't what I signed up for and you aren't who I married. Well, I'm showing up differently, and so as that person finds more choice, their partner typically starts to experience what seems to be a lot less choice in the trajectory that they're headed in as a couple.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to honor and recognize.
It is. However, I will say that, it's actually only acceleration, because that shit's going to happen anyway. It just might take 20 years. For that movement apart, in from a stage structure level, to start to shift enough for the value systems to start going. And what they're really saying is, you don't value what I value anymore. That's actually what they're saying. It's a value system, right? You aren't valuing the same things I'm valuing, and I can't understand because it seemed like you used to value those things, but now you don't. And fuck you for not valuing them. Who are you? That means you don't value me.
And people want to eat their meal at their own pace, right? Why as someone comes into this work, it's like getting the meal and ramming it down their partner's throat with their fist, right? You're going to consume all of this and understand and process all of this, like, in this next 6 months, not in the next 6 or 16 years.
Yeah, even though the person just themselves is only just starting to wake up, But that awakening is like, shit, you need to be awakening too. We need to waken together. Versus, well, that's not true. Genuine compassion and patience is actually required. First for yourself, like you're shifting, you're changing, you're adjusting. Your values are shifting. So you go on a disidentify with these earlier values and start identifying with these kind of crazier later values that, are woke values, like, what the fuck? And then someone like Donald Trump and Putin come along and you got this massive shifts, these massive polarizations, all of a sudden in families, between colleagues, between partners.
And so the shift into the choice-based relationship as that was made here early on, is also the choice to stay in the relationship even though the other person isn't able to be in a choice-based relationship or even see a choice-based relationship. And that's going to cause, difficulty at the same time, right? Because it's like there's just the whole disconnect from the relationship whilst actually more fully into the relationship and more fully stable in the relationship, while seemingly aloof, right? Seemingly not there any longer. Because of the basis of the start of what a relationship is supposed to be. And so it'll take some time, that takes some space, some months, some years, yeah. It does.
And it takes, what going on to really the next point, which is, maybe we'll cover this off in another conversation, but unconditional love. It's the choice to choose the fullest expression of your humanity and open up and allow, all of that, which seems to be prickly and aggressive and reactive to allow it just to hit us through. It's like, it's rather than resisting it. And even that's painful because, it's like you're supposed to resist this shit, so I've got something to push back on.
Sure, and you've been doing that.
I think everybody who is in development is doing that to an extent. Genuinely, you can't be in relationship whilst being actually in your unfolding, and then not be breaking down and breaking through. And so it takes one party, just one party, to decide this relationship is unconditional in my compassion, my love, my care. And that doesn't go away, regardless of any behavings that I'm seeing, even, the resistance to my behavings.
Yeah. And I think some years ago, you with the wife was like, I don't care how you show up, you remember? It was like a big view for you.
I do. She wouldn't agree, but I absolutely do.
We're not talking about Elizabeth. We're talking about your shift.
Yes. Genuinely, like the shift that I made is no matter what happens here, the love that I experience isn't changing. It's not a changeable thing. It's a growing, expansive experience for me. I had a realization. It was only reasonably recently that because my wife and I have been together for like 25, 30 years, 28 years or something. And that I genuinely loved every aspect of her humanity, regardless, absolutely unconditionally. All of it, in fact, all of the stuff that I had resisted in the past, I actually had a realization that I actually loved. All of it. And that was like, aha shit. It's like falling in love again. All the little quirks that you fall in love with a person. That when you're in that initial phase was just like an unconditional falling, so deeply that there was nothing holding anything to anything in the concrete world anymore. It was just an expansive expression.
How difficult is that, do you think, for the person receiving that when they're not seeing the world that way?
I don't. I think it could be very difficult. As you say, it often seen as aloof. Oh, uncaring, because it's a different level here. We've got levels of care. It's a different level of care. It's a care for the whole, not just the parts. And so it can be seen as aloof. It can be seen as like nonchalant, not caring. You don't care about the things I care about. How about you?
True. So, in terms of the one person finding a choice, this choice-based relationship, right? And then if your partner's able to, with the work, whatever, find their way to that choice-based relationship, then, there seems to be, a lifetime basis for a relationship. But actually, it's not. It's still subjective. There's still someone making a choice with someone else, another subject, making a choice or not making a choice, making a transaction, right? So that kind of seems like, that choice-based relationship is really a peak or flow move in the relationship, where actually, it's really only a step.
Yeah.
The next step beyond a choice-based relationship is a choiceless relationship, where there is no choice being made in the relationship.
That's interesting.
Maybe next chat we might touch into that a bit.
Yeah, I like choiceless. Yeah, choiceless. It's not choiceless in the face of a choice.
No, it's choiceless. It's just going to go choiceless, that says, boom, it's actually reality's running your life.
Yes, right. So it's reality flowing through you without resistance.
Right, and it's running life. It's making choices, and you're not. Like, there would be nothing that here would do differently in terms of the awakening work, be a gynecologist or an airline pilot. It's not going to happen, not because it's just choices. There's no actual choice to do or be different than what's true. In relationship and relating with people in a choiceless way, that you're relating with who happens to be there, of course that's who happens to be there in the way that it happens to be going.
Yeah, so So if we look back at the Swami comment, if he was an enlightened Swami, I'm not saying it was, I'm not saying it wasn't, then that makes perfect sense, right? Because now it's not you compromising. There is no compromise.
There is no compromise.
You're not running. So that's a completely different view to don't compromise, stay with your truth.
Oh. Good. Right. Chat again.